bipartisan publication covering the 5 towns in the Pine Plains Central School District. If you haven't subscribed or you'd like to subscribe, go to newpineplainsherald.org. We are 501c3, so if you'd like to donate as well, we're entirely dependent on donations and grants. And we hope in the near future to have enough money to supplement the largely volunteer staff we have. Last night we hosted our second Meet the Candidates Forum in Pine Plains. And this is our first here, so we're really happy to be here. We believe it dovetails with our mission to keep you informed and make you aware of what's going on in your community. With that, also if you know people who wanted to attend and couldn't, we'll be uploading a video of this on our website so they can watch it later. And with that, I'd like to introduce the moderator for tonight, our editor-in-chief, Patrick Grego.
Thank you all for coming out tonight to participate in democracy itself and to, give your time to hear directly from your candidates for, the folks who hope to be running your town come January. So we have a few ground rules for this evening. Basically, we're going to be asking questions in 2 different groups, starting with the candidates for town supervisor. Each candidate will have a set amount of time to answer each question, and we'll alternate who answers questions first. Please, no interruptions from the audience, and amongst candidates, no personal attacks, on people that you're running against. There will be no questions from the audience tonight. All of our questions came directly from reader submissions. We had plenty, and I went ahead and edited those questions. And each candidate will have 30 seconds for closing remarks. So with that said, a big round of applause for everyone who came out tonight. Great, so first of all, welcome to all of you and thank you for being here again. Let's begin. So for our 2 candidates for town supervisor, we have Julia Descoteaux and Mike Roche. Let's start with Mike Roche. What makes you qualified to serve the town of Stanford as its town supervisor?
Well, I'd like to give a little opening statement, if you wouldn't mind, Patrick.
Oh, please, yeah, my fault. Let's start with the intro.
All right. Thank you very much for having me here tonight, Patrick, and thank you all for coming. My name is Michael Roche. My friends know me as Mike. I want to thank you all again for coming. And just a little thing about me. I first visited Stanford from Long Island back in 1975. It reminded me of my family farm in Wexford, Ireland, where my grandparents immigrated from. My then girlfriend, who's now my wife, well, her family owned a cottage on Upton Lake. I thought it was spectacular. Anybody from Upton Lake here? The fishing, swimming, ice skating, nature, I couldn't get enough. Not long after that, I was accepted into the New York City Police Department. I worked various uniformed and plainclothes assignments. Eventually was promoted to sergeant. It was a great honor to be a frontline supervisor in what some describe as the toughest job in the world. I learned a great deal about what it takes to be a leader and how to come up with solutions for problems facing people and communities. I married my wife Bernadette. We were blessed with 3 wonderful children. About 30 years ago, Bernadette and I were very fortunate to purchase our own cottage on Upton Lake. Our family spent all of our free time there. I soon became involved with my neighboring community, helping out with planned projects like taking rafts out of the water for winter, or unplanned events like cutting up trees after a storm. And I really enjoyed making new friends around the lake, learning about the history of our town. Another great joy in my life came from coaching youth sports. Before long, I was coaching 3 teams at a time, 1 for each of my kids. My kids moved on to bigger things, but I remained involved with coaching and eventually coordinated 2 countywide school leagues.
That's time. There's 90 seconds for introductory statements.
We got a gong show tonight. Okay.
So, Julia Descoteaux, your 90 seconds for opening remarks.
Thanks, Patrick, and thank you everyone for being here. For the first Meet the Candidates that the Pine Plains Herald is holding, to be standing room only in a town like ours is pretty remarkable. So appreciate everyone coming out and wanting to learn about the process. Thank you guys for coming out too and wanting to serve this incredible town. I see a lot of faces, familiar faces in the audience. Most of you, some of you know me from those faces from the playground build. We had an opportunity last year to rebuild the playground, and that's where I met a lot of people in this room. It was one of the most remarkable experiences of my life. Prior to that, I was elected to the town board in 2023. I'm in my second year on the town board. My family and I have lived in Stanford. We purchased our home 10 years ago, and we've lived here 5 years full-time. I'm raising my son here with my husband, who's across the way. I'm a hockey mom, I'm a soccer mom. I am a part-time consultant in digital marketing and business communications. I've worked for companies like Walmart and Toyota, where I've learned to lead teams, large teams, and big budgets. So the role of supervisor, as it's been explained to me by Steve Godovich, who I've had the opportunity to get to know, is the CFO of the town. You're responsible for the fiscal health of the town. You lead the strategy. I have experience managing teams. A town is not unlike a team. You need to be high functioning, you need to communicate effectively, you need to lead with trust and honesty.
Thank you. That is time for opening remarks. I
Thank you.
appreciate it. So let's move on to that first question, and we'll begin with Mike Roche. What makes you qualified to serve as supervisor?
So again, the leadership skills that I developed in the New York City Police Department. After that, I went on to become an attorney, went back to school. I now, for the past 15 years, I have had my own practice as an attorney. I practice with, I have a family law practice. I practice real estate and estates. Using the skills that I developed through both of those, I think that I can effectively lead the community here. I've led out in the streets of New York, and I believe I can lead in Stanford.
Okay. And the same question for you, Julia. What makes you qualified to serve as supervisor for the town of Stanford?
So I was, as I was saying, the timing thing is tough. The role of the supervisor is fiscal responsibility. You set the budgets and you execute the payments for the town. We have a $4 million budget here in Stanford. That includes the EMS, it includes the general fund, it includes the highway. You're responsible for making sure that all of those services happen. For the last 2 years, I've been involved in the budgeting process. I know the budgeting process very well. I've been involved in liaising with the Conservation Advisory Committee, where they developed the NRI, which is a document that's going to be informing the town for years to come. I also form the Water Quality Committee. I am very focused on the future of this community and investing my time and our resources into investing in our community. I've spent several years revitalizing the recreation center, including the playground there with many of you, and I look forward to doing that for years to come.
Thank you. Oh, thank you. So then let's move on to our next question. So, you've all been campaigning now for several months. What have you learned from your constituents on the campaign trail while canvassing at these meetings that you've been attending? We'll start first with Julia for this question.
That's a really good question. Really depending on the door that you knock, it's a different question. I had a gentleman ask me about solar and understanding the rebates available to him with solar. He asked me who within the building department would approve his permit for solar so that he could move down the process and get a rebate. Another example was a young mom who answered the door and asked about the gravel that was put down in front of her house. I had the opportunity to talk to Jim Myers and learn about that process. I'm learning as I go door to door. A lot of you have lived here longer than I have. A lot of you have really good history and feedback. So I'm learning. And I'm also hopefully able to share something with you in terms of the resources that I've been able to learn. I think everyone loves consistently that Stanford is a rural community. They don't want things to change. They want them to improve, but they don't want things to change. And I've heard that loud and clear.
going door to door, I found out that besides the beauty here in the town of Stanford, the natural beauty, the environment and everything, the people are the best. And what a lot of people say, the common complaint is the current town board does not listen very well to its community. And what they bring up mostly is they pass unpopular laws like the comprehensive plan. I'd like to help change that, and I'm honored to be your candidate for town supervisor to do that. I'd like to listen to the community and respond to them.
As a current member of the town board, you're permitted 30 seconds for a rebuttal. Would you
Sure.
care to use that 30 seconds?
Yeah, absolutely. So the comprehensive plan isn't a law, just to level set. It's a strategy, it's a document, it's a guiding document to inform the community for many years. It was a bipartisan developed plan over 2 decades. It's a really good plan, and it basically is a blueprint. It's not law. So that is informing things like the Water Quality Committee and the work that they're doing. It's informing groups like the Zoning Commission that is putting in place updated zoning laws like the right to farm. So it's informing laws. It's not a law.
Thank you. So then moving on to the role of local government. What, in your view, Mr. Roche first, do you believe is the role of government, local government here in Stanford? What do you think that the town board, should be, what function do you think the town board should be fulfilling?
Some of the concerns I'm hearing from people ask, well, what about bringing in new businesses into town here? And I feel that the town board's got to get out of the way. Stop making these environmental laws that are hampering new businesses from coming in, causing people to come and spend tons of money on engineering plans, on legal coverage. We need to get out of the way and let things happen. It's not up to the town board to pick and choose what businesses come in, although I'd love for new business to come in. I'd love to see another stage stop type building. Business. Another Elvin's would be great. I love Big Tim and Little Big Tim, but a grocery store would be great over there.
Julia?
Can you say the question again, because I'm not quite sure I remember.
So what do you think should the role of government be for the town board to be fulfilling here in Stanford?
Okay, thank you. So first and foremost, as a town, we have essential services that we need to keep going. So our highway department plowing the roads is a big one of ours. Ambulance services is another one. It's a huge responsibility of us, for us to keep people safe. As part of that, we have headcount that we need to support. We support a team of workers here. The town government's role is to keep those essential services going. It's also to make informed decisions to safeguard for the future. Things like the Water Quality Committee, where unfortunately we are limited by our water. We're all on private wells, so we can't expand infinitely. So we have to ensure that the water can service the businesses that we want to bring in. We do have some open space. We do have opportunity for that space. And a few weeks ago, I had the opportunity to meet someone in Dutchess County who can facilitate, what kind of business might be interested in moving into Stanford. Our job is also to connect and find those resources at the county or state level and connect them to the needs here in the community for things that we can't fund with our tax dollars. Things like the playground, things like landscaping, upgrades in the park. Even water quality testing, which will be a grant funding that we get.
Thank you. So Mr. Roche, you mentioned environmental laws that you think you find prohibitive to business, or you said something to the extent. Can you specifically mention which environmental law that is set by the town that you think is prohibiting people's property rights or business?
The so-called advisory laws, they are advisory. So when people go before the zoning boards, then they're faced with these restrictions. And while they say they're advisory, they drive up the cost. There's engineering costs, there's legal costs, and new business doesn't want to come in because of that.
care to respond to this, or?
Yeah, so the zoning board of appeals and the planning board, they're both bipartisan committees that are appointed by the board. A lot of them have been serving on, previous boards, and they have a lot of experience, and their job is to interpret the zoning law. And when they can't, to ask for more information. And in some cases, when there are things that do go forth to these committees, it could require an extra cost, like a site plan, or they need to see where the septic is, or things like that. Their job is not to impart environmental laws. That's the job of the state and the Board of Health in Dutchess County. So they do have a lot of laws that we need to follow, and they are enforced at the county and the state level. Our zoning board of appeals and planning board do a tremendous job with the information they have, and we appreciate their service.
Okay. My next question, a lot of the reader questions that were submitted had to do with infrastructure, be it road safety, speeding was a big common thread in many of the reader submissions. What will you do as town supervisor to improve conditions on Stanford's roads, be it speeding, or potholes, or what will you do to improve Stanford's road safety as town supervisor? I believe this time we'll start with Julia Discoto.
Sure. So this has been a hot topic. I've biked on these roads for many years. I've run on these roads. I see people walking on these roads. A lot of people will tell you, don't walk on the roads, don't ride on the roads. We live in the most beautiful place on earth. I hope everyone wants to walk outside and feel safe. Unfortunately, we have Route 82 that runs right through town. It's a state highway. It is a 14-mile concrete slab that goes from Pine Plains all the way down into Millbrook and beyond. It is a really difficult job to maintain that road, one. So we are constantly going back and forth with local offices, with the highway department. Where can we do our thing? Where can we ask, or sometimes beg Dee Dee Barrett or Michelle Hinchy to fix something? The DOT is very tough on us in terms of lowering the speed limit in town. That's also something we've been trying to do. In my previous jobs, when you've, quote unquote, run into a brick wall, you figure out another way to get around when the problem continues to present itself. So we're continuing to go appropriate channels and escalate where we can to try to get the speed limit lowered. But in the meantime, we do have the troopers that help us out and put those speed measurement devices along the road, and those are helpful in getting people to slow down, but it doesn't solve the problem.
Thank you, Mr. Roach.
I think Jim Myers and his crew does a great job on the town roads here. He keeps the potholes filled up, he does the snow removal, he does a great job. As far as the state roads, unfortunately, we don't have that much of a say. There are requirements with DOT. I've worked with them. When I was with the police department, I worked with DOT. I enforced laws. I don't think that we really need to go below 40 miles per hour here in town. But I'd be willing to hear out. I'd like to hear from the community more on that. But personally, I think 40 miles an hour is okay with that. I think the signal that's up there, the sign, is very distracting. It goes red no matter what you're doing, whether you're doing over the speed limit or above or below the speed limit. And I find it very distracting, and I've heard that from the community also.
Thank you. So another question that I have is, currently Stanford's EMS service is subsidized by a high net worth individual who's made a large multi-million-dollar contribution to the town. What is your plan as town supervisor to ensure that once that money has run out, that people here in Stanford are not waiting potentially life-threatening amounts of time for critical emergency services? And this time we will begin with Mr. Roush.
Well, thanks. I think that's a great question. And it's just recently that we're hearing about this. I don't know why for months we're not hearing about that in town hall. EMS has been a big thing in my life. When I was with the police department, I worked hand in hand with EMS. Volunteering has been a big thing. When I was a young man, I took junior life-saving classes, and when I was 12 years old, based on those junior life-saving classes. I was able to save somebody's life. So I know how important it is. I think that we need to have like a hybrid system here. Our fire company, they do a great job, but they can't do it all on their own. So we need to develop new people, and we need to combine with others, whether it be the county, whether it be these hospital corporations like Northwell. Northwell is buying in up here. We have them down on Long Island where I used to live. And I think Northwell would be a great group to explore splitting the costs. What I mean is we could have them divert patients to a Northwell hospital, and perhaps we could offset some of these costs. But as people like to say, this is just not sustainable the way it is.
So we received a $2.1 million gift. We've actually received a lot of gifts over the last year, several years. I think that's a testament to what people see in this community and where they want to invest. So I want to give a thank you to that anonymous donor who did that. That money is being used in 7-piece increments over the course of the next 7 years to defray taxes here. So that gift is being put to use, but that doesn't take away the $750,000 that service costs us every year to maintain. Our fire department does an incredible job. I'm pointing at Tim Gifford. And they respond to hundreds of calls a year, but they can't get to everything. And EMS is an issue. We had the last 2 EMS service providers have collapsed, and while our costs are remaining the same this year, we don't know what will happen next year, which is why we are working with the county and our county legislator, Chris Drago, to increase spending on EMS services in the area. They received $2 million extra last year, which is not enough to enhance, and this is across all of Dutchess County and rural areas. It's a problem that we're facing. So with our volunteer, but also working to find a better long-term solution, and in the meantime, that gift is going towards offsetting taxes.
Thank you. Also on the topic of infrastructure, one of our readers has submitted a question regarding cell service. They claim that they have no cell service where they live in Stanford. Do you have a plan as town supervisor to improve broadband and cellular service across the town? We start with Julie this time.
Yeah. So I've heard it in fits and spurts, maybe on purpose because they don't have service, not to make a joke, but it is important to have cell phone service. I lose it when I'm driving down 82, and I lose it in town. We have options available to us at the state level where we can start a very long process to build a case to expand out cellular service in a more comprehensive way to the town. So there's state grants. One of them is a Connect All grant. And it's a very long process where we basically need to, very similar to the playground, build a case for why we want it and why we need it. So they're gonna look at things like, where is there community cell phone service in town? And we point to things like the library. Where are there disadvantaged communities or people that really need them? We build a case around our older population who could perhaps, and they live independently, and they could perhaps fall in their home. Waiting more than 15 minutes for an ambulance is not acceptable. And so, or not an ambulance, but also not being able to get cell phone service is not acceptable. So I'm willing to absolutely build a case for us to expand out that cell phone service. Where towers would go would be in existing infrastructure, so we need to look at that as well. Other towns are, just as the Pine Plains Herald wrote that there are neighboring towns that are limiting cell phone towers, so that could have an impact on us. So if that's something the town is really interested in, we can start building a case and forming a committee to get it done.
Well, I'm a solutions-based kind of guy, and I brought back my landline because the cell phone service is horrible. But I have had the benefit of speaking with Sue Serino, a county executive. I've spoken with our chairman, Will Truitt, chairman of the legislature, and he did tell me, they both told me that there is something with the state, and we need the state legislature to vote on it, and we think we can have some improvements on that.
Okay. And now moving on to the comprehensive plan. in your understanding, can you please tell voters who may not know, what is the comprehensive plan? So this time I believe we'll start with Mr. Roche.
The comprehensive plan is difficult to understand. I'm a lawyer and I'm looking at it, and it doesn't need to be that difficult. I think that I find it hard to understand. There's certain aspects of it that I just don't understand. People have said to me, you need to read it, Mike, you need to read it first thing in the morning at 6 o'clock in the morning. And I think that's the problem with a lot of these laws, that they're pushed through by the current town board, and they're difficult to understand. So it's going to end up causing us problems in the future.
So the comprehensive plan, as I was mentioning earlier, the last one we had was in the 80s, and it was recently passed in 2023. It was a several decade process. If I can remember correctly, it probably went through a dozen to 24 public hearings. It is a living, breathing document, so if the town wants to go through that again over the next 5 years, we can absolutely do that. But the idea of a comprehensive plan is to basically give an outline of this is what the town is like, this is what the town infrastructure looks like, this is what the ecosystem looks like, this is what the population trends look like, it's basically a big summary of data that gives you a tremendous amount of information to make informed decisions about things like future zoning or things like improvements that we make in the town regarding cell phone service or water quality. It's a really, really valuable document, and it's utilized to inform laws and build legislation. It's a labor of love from the community over the last 2 decades to put it over the finish line, because it will inform committees and the community for years and years to come.
Okay, so one of the things, I've been covering Stanford Town Board meetings for the past almost 2 years. One of the things when the comprehensive plan is brought up is that it seems to exist in order, it's been asserted that it seems to exist in order to protect the rural character of Stanford. What will you do as town supervisor to protect and promote the natural resources of Stanford? This time we begin with Julia.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I was going to say, I love this question. It's the reason we all moved here. We have a beautiful community that we're surrounded with, and we've been able to publish documents like the Natural Resources Inventory that have been able to inform how we think about our community. This is all of our land, and we have I don't mean to sound really dorky about it, but we don't have central infrastructure. It's all shared resources in terms of water that flows underneath the ground below us into aquifers that are self-contained. The tree coverage that we have here is remarkable, and climate, it can stand a real test against climate adversary and climate change. So understanding that and being informed of it is a really, really great tool. And our community has done a ton to invest in the resources to supply those tools to the community because it really benefits us. And it keeps our community sustainable, and it keeps us informed about what to do to keep it sustainable and to protect our investment, which is our home and our land.
I'm kind of new to looking into this, but the CAC concerns me, particularly around Upton Lake and what they're saying about the resources. There are a lot of natural resources, but the CAC and the NRI is listing Upton Lake as a natural resource, and it's privately held. So what I'm afraid of is that the laws or the suggestions that the CAC and the NRI are making are going to negatively impact the homeowners, especially along Upton Lake. There's talk about the banks and about tree cover. And so what does that mean? You have to keep a tree up? What if you want to take a tree down? They're saying that it could have an issue with the cooling. there. There's another issue with the NRI about how our pets affect wildlife, and can your pets roam free on your land? So I think it's a great idea, but it's gone too far. And that's the same with the CAC. I think there needs to be more generalities in it and not so specific, because I think that it can be used against property owners and it could hurt our property rights.
So I can give you a chance to respond if you'd like. However, I do want to just remind you that the question was, what will you do as town supervisor to protect and promote the natural resources of Stanford?
I'm going to review what we have and be guided by what the community wants to do.
You want me to respond?
You can take a 30-second rebuttal if you.
Yeah, I would. So the NRI and the CAC they're there to provide information to the community, and to the county and to the state and to whoever else wants it. They are connectors to each of us here in the room, and the work that they do is really, really important. There's also towns in every neighboring community around us that do this kind of work too, because it's really important that we keep it going and we sustain it.
Okay. Another question I had for you all pertains to taxes. How do you feel about the current level of tax in town? As town supervisor, would you propose that the town raises its town taxes? If so, why? What services would you like to fund? If you propose that the town cut its town taxes, what services would you like to cut? So I believe last time, please remind me who we started with.
I think I started last time.
Okay, so Mr. Roach.
I'm currently reviewing the proposed budget this year and last year's budget. I'm not in favor of raising taxes. I know what high taxes can do. I came from Long Island. There was a talk by the Pine Plains superintendent from school, and they're talking about closing one of the schools. They close schools, but our taxes never seem to go down, our school taxes. So I'm not in favor of cutting services, but I'd really like to take a close look at the budget, and I do not want to raise taxes. I think that's very important.
Yeah, I would agree with Mike that we want to keep our town taxes as low as we can, and if you look under the hood, the town taxes are about $4 million. The school taxes in our district are about $36 million. So the budget sizes differ quite a bit. We control our town taxes, which is the highway department, salaries, ambulance, and several other assessor's office, courts. They're essential services, so we want to do everything we can to keep them as low as possible and actually do more to go after grant funding and educational resources to give us a little bit more. The school taxes are concerning. It does continue to go up every year, and it's a variety of factors, which Superintendent Tim presented to us. We're going to keep the communication open with him on an ongoing basis and want him to come back as often as he wants to inform the community on town taxes, school taxes. But town taxes, you can see the latest budget on the town website, and it has historical figures on all of that.
Thank you. So my final question before we move on to the candidates for the town board at large pertains to, housing. So, we brought up the fact that one of the schools, that the Pine Plains Central School District, they may consolidate and close down the elementary school here in Stanford. What do you believe is the cause for the continuing decline in student enrollment in Pine Plains Central School District? Some people have asserted that it's housing. Do you agree with that, and what do you think can be done in order to encourage people to be able to afford to live in Stanford? Starting with...
You were looking at me, so I wasn't sure.
I'm happy to start. You want me to start? Sure. So housing is complex. There's a housing shortage. If you take a big step back in the US, I don't have to tell anyone that, there's a housing shortage in New York. New York actually had a pretty large population decline post-COVID, so that's one contribution to the declining enrollment in the schools. Another contribution is the high cost of affording a home in the area. Our zoning laws beget that, so we have a certain amount of land that can be built on. I'm really proud of what we as the town board did this past year, which was pass our ADU law, which makes it easier for existing homeowners to build structures on their properties or right onto their house, like my neighbor did, to facilitate rental income in some cases and also increase housing opportunities. We also looked at very closely the short-term rental policy and ensuring that that doesn't become infinite so as to take away long-term housing opportunities in the rental market. So we're doing what we can at the town level, and we're working with local resources like the +1 ADU program to partner on funding for some of these in the cases of a lower income homeowner, where you can subsidize the construction of an accessory dwelling unit, which is another option to increase housing size. But it's a problem.
All right, the short-term rental unit. I was at meetings here. We had, it's a good source of income for young people in our community. It's a good source of income for fixed income people, elderly people. There's studies out there that say that the short-term rental does not affect the housing, the rental market there. It fills a need in the community. It brings people up here. Some people even on the board, I've heard them say that that's what brought them to Stanford. They came up here. The current board went against the advisory board and they set a cap on it. I don't understand why that was done. I really don't. As far as the ADUs went against the comprehensive plan. It increased density around Bengal and around Hunts Lake, around Upton Lake. It poses a threat to clean water because of the density problems. And neighboring homeowners really have little to say if their neighbors want to expand. So there's a lot of dissension, there's a lot of unrest about the ADUs, a lot of concern.
So can you say what the original question was?
So the original question was, there's a decline in student enrollment.
Yeah.
What do you think can be done in order to?
I mean, I think I answered it, so I don't know, sorry if it was maybe a rebuttal, but the ADU laws and everything is done sort of using data to inform the decisions and looking at a lot of information across municipalities. There's certain things that we need to do, like short-term rental regulation, otherwise the county would do it for us. At least now we know what's happening where, and we have an opportunity to make sure it's safe for anyone that does come into our community. I personally think we do need to cap it. Water is a finite resource in our town, and long-term rental units can be impacted. Most towns have regulation around how many short-term rental units there can be. And when the town passed the resolution, we made it flexible so that we could revisit it via resolution should we start to get more data. But right now, there are 51 rental units in all of Stanford, and we capped it at 55. So we have opportunity to grow, and then we have opportunity to change it every chance we get. In terms of ADUs, we can also relook at that, but it's important that they meet the Board of Health and the septic requirements before anything is built. So that's going to be a big hurdle for those densely populated areas like Mike mentioned, Upton Lake, Bengal, and Hunts Lake.
Again, overregulation, the short-term rental, overregulation. We don't need it at 55. The planning board said not to cap it. I asked specifically, why are you going against the planning board? I was told it's merely an advisory board. It's overregulation.
Do you have a specific number of short-term rentals?
I do not.
Do you think it should remain unlimited?
Not necessarily, but I'd like to look a little bit more. We have information that may not be accurate. 51. I don't know whether we had 51 come in, 51 applications so far.
No, we haven't. We're just starting the process of,
It's an unknown thing on that, it
so we
really
haven't
is.
had the applications come in, because we're working with a company called Granicus, that's going to be.
Exactly what my point. It's an unknown. The 51, it could be a lot more than 51. There could be people that are doing it in other fashions rather than Airbnb. It could be like Facebook. There was people, Democrats, who said, we sound like Republicans looking for freedom here. It's just, it's too restrictive.
Well, I want to thank you both for your answers, and I welcome you to please remain seated, as you'll have the opportunity to give closing remarks at the conclusion of our event. Now I would like to welcome, so please a round of applause for the candidates. And now opening remarks for the candidates for the town boards, beginning with Teddy Secord on the left.
So my name is Teddy Secord. I have been a resident since about 2010, 2011. I have an argument with my sister about this all the time because I forget things. But I have been a member of this community, not necessarily a resident, for my entire life. My family has been here for years as residents before they actually moved to Highland in the late 90s. I've been active since about 2016. I was a part of the Haunted Fortress. I've taken part in the Grange, the Lions Club, and in about 2020, when the world shut down, I actually joined the Rec Commission, and then eventually I joined the Conservation Advisory Commission, and I've taken part in different activities in town. I'm still with the Haunted Fortress, and please, every weekend in October, stop by. I dress up as a pirate and I tell awful jokes. Why I'm running for re-election is I want to continue what I've done in these last 2 years in being a voice of a different age, of a different style of life, in being a renter and being someone who is probably in the struggling class of life if I was thrown out onto the streets, right? In being someone who has had throughout life accessibility issues, things I care about. I care about the environment also, right? I want to continue that process and that dialogue around those different aspects of life. I want to see conversations that I've started and we've gotten the ball rolling together. I would like to see something come out of it. Fruition for me does not mean the perfect ideal answer. It just means an acceptable result that is going to do either the least amount of harm or none at all, right?
That is time for introductions. Thank you very much. Moving on to Ms. Taylor.
Hi, I'm Mrs. Taylor, and I'm a mother, I'm a teacher. I used to teach biology in Pine Plains High School, and the reason I want to be part of this board is because I'm so confused about everything that I hear. So I hear about this plan that is about environmental conservation. There's a lot of data, and then I hear these fights about, no, we're using this to stop doing that, or we're using this. So to me, I'm a teacher. I need it to be clear. I need the facts to be in front of me, and I don't like interpreting things. You don't interpret the law. You read it and you execute it. I was also in the United States military for 4 years with my husband. He was Cap Scout and I was a logistician. So me being on the board and me being a resident and being very, very, very close with all my neighbors. I've got a Vietnam veteran that I take care of and his wife. They're 90 years old. I've got my neighbors who have lived on Upton Lake for almost 30 years now. And I have 2 daughters. One's 1-year-old and one's a 7-year-old. And I feel like this community needs somebody from home to come and listen and then represent, not interpret. So something small, like I go to the rec and I see residents from outside coming 8 o'clock in the night, bathing their dogs.
Introduction. Thank you so much, Mrs. Taylor. Moving along to Mr. Cunningham.
Let's make sure that one works there. Hey everyone, I'm Charlie Cunningham. I want to thank you all for coming out tonight. I also want to thank the Pine Plains Herald for putting on this event. I'm a husband, father, recent father to Felix, and I'm a dog dad. And some of you know I am also a town planner. It's my day job, but I grew up the oldest of three, working for my dad, who was a general contractor. And I helped my mom around the house, and it's a place where no one went to college, and so my kind of first bit of civil or public service was at AmeriCorps, if anyone's been familiar with that, kind of a domestic Peace Corps. In that program, I did public service ranging from trails, tutoring, disaster relief, and community organizing with the American Red Cross, and I worked my way through college, and through that, the reason I want to be a part of the board is kind of to take this beautiful community that I've joined recently and be able to take the things that I've learned from folks knocking on doors and bring that to the town board and help kind of with this comprehensive plan that we know are recently put into place. I'd love to help bring that around. So sorry.
Okay, moving on to Mr. Marson.
I'm always last. Hi, my name is Frank Marson. I'm originally from Yonkers, New York. I joined the Marine Corps in '76. Upon my discharge, I joined the NYPD, where I was blessed to be part of the mounted unit. I spent 13 years on horseback. After I left, then I married my wife. We had several children, and my wife was then laid off. We moved to Monroe, New York. Then my wife was laid off from her job, and then she got a job at Diamond Mills. So then we decided to move to Dutchess County. And I can't believe what a phenomenal place this was. It was just a whim to move here. And this is the Garden of Eden, and I want to preserve it. And I wish we combined all our ideas together and take some out, some in, some out. And that's my opinion. We can't have it one way or another. We got to work together.
Thank you very much. So let's move on to our first question for the candidates. Again, all of these questions were informed by reader submissions. To those of you who submitted questions, thank you very much. Can you please describe for voters your community involvement over the last 5 years? We will begin with Mr. Cunningham and make our way right until we get to Michelle.
So really early on, one of the first weekends I moved here, I saw was a trash pickup day, and that is exactly what I do whenever I'm walking the roads with my son and family. And then I would say a year ago, it was one of those things where I found out there was a new playground being built, and being able to support that, knowing that my son is going to be able to use this playground for the rest of his life here in town was just phenomenal. Getting people from all walks of life coming together and digging holes, and there are a lot of rocks out there, to be able to dig holes, which I also have on my property when I dug a fence. But I would say being able to help and see this new playground get built, it was just a fantastic opportunity to join and support the community.
Thank you. Mr. Marson?
What was that question again, please?
Can you please describe for our voters your community involvement over the last 5 years?
Well, since I've only been here since 2001, I think my community service with the Marine Corps included Stanford, and then my NYPD 20-year service. So particularly in town itself, I can't say that, but I do have public service in my belt. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Secor?
So in the last 5 years, I was a member of the Lions Club and the Grange in Stanford. I'm no longer a member due to having to budget my time accordingly. When I was at Dutchess Community College, I was a student government representative, and I brought that experience back to Stanford in the little things I did. I have been on the Conservation Advisory Commission. I was on the Rec Commission. I am on the Climate Smart Communities Task Force. I'm on the Haunted Fortress, and I'm currently a member of the Stanford Caring Community Incorporated, which is an excellent little organization. And we're small, but we've put on several events lately that have been really well attended, and there's a very positive aspect of that. So And also, obviously, on the town council. And before I forget, because I always forget one, I was an election worker for a couple of years before I was on the town board.
Mrs. Taylor?
So my involvement in the community usually is through my job, either teaching or being in the army, but I love to keep it organic and I connect with all the veterans in the community. And if a veteran doesn't have a car or they're too old to drive to their appointments, I make sure I take them for their doctor's appointments. A lot of my neighbors are retired, and this is not a community service, but I love to cook for all of my neighbors when they're sick. So if you're above a certain age and you're sick, I will cook for you. And I do mentor young girls whenever I meet them at school or off campus, and I try to get them jobs and positions in, like in Genie and Bean, there are 2 girls working there now. So I love bringing them to our community and showing them how, you can add pockets and little wholesomeness in your life where you don't have to be not doing anything and, I don't have enough money to buy certain things, but now you can come into our community, work over here, it's a safe community, and they love it. So that's my little organic giving to the community.
Thank you all very much. Let's move on to another question. What will you do so as we've discussed, the Pine Plain Central School District is considering shuttering one of its buildings due to a lack of student enrollment. One of the reasons that there may be a decline in student enrollment is just a general population decline. What will you do on the town board, or what policies would you support to ensure that Stanford is a place that remains affordable for working families, so young families could potentially send their children to the Pine Plain Central School District? We began with Charlie last time, so this time we'll begin with Mr. Morrison.
Yes, I think that's inevitable since the population is getting older and they're not having children and there's less people moving in. I think the short-term rentals would be a great way to expose new young couples to, let's go spend a weekend up there, let's go see what it looks like, and may entice them to move in. I think that would be the way I think that would work. Thank you.
Mr. Siegel.
I think one of the biggest concerns I see in town, one of the biggest concerns I hear in town really, is that there's not enough to do on a weekend or even on like a summer weeknight. Last weekend when I was at the Haunted Fortress, someone said that they came through twice that night, and I thought they were insane, and they were. They said that very earnestly there isn't a lot to do around here. I think one of the biggest things in keeping families here and keeping people invested is we need to embolden and strengthen our recreation program. We need to keep prices fair. It doesn't mean that everything is going to be free, because there is a very real cost to keeping these programs alive, but we need to be timid or at least frugal about how money is being spent on these programs and what the cost is going to be on the customer's end. So really, I gotta say, recreation is probably the most doable and present way to keep people in this town and in this general area. And to that point, we actually have people all around the county who support our recreation programs and wish that they had similar programs in their towns.
So I have a little bit of a different take. I do believe, of course, you have to be able to afford a home in the district. Then you can bring your family into it. And yes, it is a little bit expensive. But I also strongly believe, because I've worked at Pine Plains, I do believe that I have 2 kids. One is 7, one is 1-year-old. We were in the military. We scratched our pockets because we wanted to get our kids into a Millbrook school district. It's because there's a reason why we want them to be in that district. The proficiency is much higher. So if Pine Plains High School wants to increase their enrollment, you have to incentivize the parent. Why should I scratch my wallet? Why should I cut my arms and legs off to buy that house, to send my daughter to that school where maybe she's not going to turn out to be what I want her to be, right? I want that proficiency. So if we are on the town board and somehow we can now, I don't know how this idea will trickle down, like the school proficiency needs to increase. How do you do that? How do you, none of the teachers are being sent to learn about the New York State Regents exams, the brand new living environment exams. We're always talking about environment, okay? Let our kids learn about biology, but the teacher is not proficient. Am I gonna send my kid over there? Am I gonna scrape my wallets to send somebody over there? No. But if that proficiency level was up here, oh yeah, now I'm gonna find the money and I'm gonna come here and I'm gonna bring my kids here. So definitely, I feel like there's a lack of training teachers in the new regions for all subjects across the board, and that could help.
Thank you. And finally, Mr. Cunningham.
Can you restate the question one more time?
So essentially, the question was, what do you think can be done to encourage young families to remain in Stanford, so that their children could attend the school district? Is it affordable housing? Is it something else? What will you do on the town board?
Thank you. Yeah, as someone who has a 1-year-old son, this is constantly on my mind, how people can stay engaged and want to stay here in Stanford. And then also, it kind of sounds like we started talking about the Pine Plains School District and the potential closing of a school. Where that's going to be, I don't think the town board can say, because that is under the superintendent mentioned, they're looking at all the different things they can do. But as someone who's on the town board and who can work with a collaborative team, I think Teddy said it best, recreation. Something for me over the summer, having a son, is being able to take him to a central place. A lot of the neighbors that I talk to say we don't have a place to go to anymore. Some say it was the stage stop or stage, these are, a bar or a restaurant. But I think for me, and to meet other parents and talk to them about what they like and what they can, or what they'd want to see in Stanford, it's meeting them at the town rec, meeting them at these other committees that the town has put together, and then that will help inform what I would do at that time. Again, coming from the outside, not being on the current board.
Great, thank you all. So also there's been some ringing sound. Not sure what that is, but let's roll ahead. So I think that last question got kind of muddled, frankly. The school and enrollment, and it's less about, my question was less about the district as it is about affordable housing, workforce housing. What can you do as a member of the town board, if anything? Do you think that you can do something to promote workforce housing here in the town of Stanford? We will begin, reminds me who we began with last. So, Mrs. Taylor.
So like Mike suggested, that a lot of businesses are being blocked from coming in here. So to me, if you want to, sorry that sound. When I talk to my kids, I tell them, if we want to spend more money, we must make more money, not just pinch pennies. So if you want those people to be able to afford housing in this town, we have to allow some businesses in. We're not saying, let's convert into New York City. We're not doing that. You're allowing certain small businesses to come in here so that there are more people who can afford housing around this district. If you do not allow anybody to come in here, there's a population decline. We're gonna have a ghost town eventually. But I'm not saying we're trying to make this New York City. I'm just saying that don't use environmental, I'm just gonna say it, don't use environmental bullying. I'm a life science teacher. I know exactly when your data is incorrect. So if you're using the incorrect data to block a business because you feel like you want to feel power, that's not okay with me. And that's why businesses are not coming in, the little businesses that need to come in. Those people that you want now to have housing, those young people, they can work for those businesses. And that's how you solve there's no more people buying houses, there's no young people coming here, they're not bringing their kids here. You have to allow a little bit more income in this town.
One thing, just one follow-up question before we move on to the next candidate. Can you give one example of an environmental law that prevented a business from opening in the town of Stanford?
I don't know exactly what environmental law, but I've heard a lot about the comprehensive plan being used and interpreted to not allow businesses. So let's open that comprehensive plan in front of me or in front of whoever's the educated person sitting in the room and saying, this is my proposal. and then in black and white show me where it says that Upton Lake is going to be fully polluted and toxic if Genie and Bean has one more shop 2 miles away. Then I agree, okay, that makes sense. We are polluting the lake, we are destroying some part of the environment, and so that business should not come in. But I don't see that connection.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to Mr. Cunningham, what do you think can be done at the town board level to encourage the development of workforce housing here in the town of Stanford?
I'm gonna be honest, from my vantage right now, I don't know if there's any lever the town can pull to build some kind of socialized housing in Stanfordville. And so using that as a base, I would say there are, it sounds like there are things that the town can help support business growth. People are talking about that a little bit, and things that the town can do to make it clear that they'd like to provide housing and place for folks to move here, but at the same time, and whether that's like some kind of advertising or things like that, but there's not going to be, there's not going to be any kind of housing that's built through the town board.
Thank you. Mr. Marson?
Yes, one of the biggest environmental issues is stumbling block is the county, not the town. For an ADU, they say you can drill a well and do a septic. Well, the New York state law is 2 feet of perk till you hit stone. The county wants 4 feet of dirt till you hit stone. So that will now transform a $10,000 septic to a $50,000 septic. And the owner, you purchase the property, you're not aware of that until it happens. So those kind of environmental laws are inhibiting to new growth, and also we have a limited supply. Everybody talks about the water. I think we should keep it just as it is, but we need new homes. And it's very hard to buy a piece of land off the main road, then you have a 200-foot driveway, you have to pay for the electric. It's the easiest way is to build homes along 82 or along a major road with road frontage. And that's hard to come by at this point.
Thank you all. So moving on to a different question.
Wait, Teddy,
Oh, I'm so sorry. Teddy Seeger, please.
So I have a question. What was the question that you said? What was the original question?
The original question was, do you think that there's anything that the town board can do to encourage the development of workforce housing in the town of Stanford?
Because of how limited towns in New York are when it comes to housing, when it comes to rent, right? Any advocacy, actually that is the solution, advocacy on behalf of the town to get any prospective builders or any prospective homeowners who want to increase the housing supply themselves, that would need to be hunting for funding. You know, the Hudson Valley Regional Chamber of Commerce has really grants that come out every single month. There's every season a new style of grants that comes out. You know, it could be charging stations. It could have to do with business development. So given that towns are really limited, we need to be advocates as the town for homeowners and people who want to create more housing.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, let's move on to a different question. What will you do, if anything, on the town board to encourage business growth in Stanfordville, in the center of town? I believe it's Charlie.
Yeah. It's actually something I'm interested in is working with the Stanford business community to learn what they would like to build and do to create more economic development around the center of town. It's a place that I really like to go, and I mentioned going to the park. I get to walk to the library, I can go pick up a prescription, I can go to Big Rock, and there's also some talk of potentially, I think a number of folks have mentioned maybe having a grocery store, some kind of place that can also maybe be another outlet for getting groceries. So I think being able to talk with the business community, find out what they'd like to do, and then again, the boogeyman in the room, come up with a plan, talk about that plan, and again, you create plans to be able to, I don't know, think about the future, put some thoughts out on paper, and the plan goes one way, sometimes it goes this way. That's okay, that's why you planned to do it. And so anyways, back to that, working with the business community to find out what their needs are, try and encapsulate that, and work as a town board with my other members across the aisle to figure out what the town needs.
Thank you, Mr. Morrison.
Ditto, except one thing. I would go to a large chain grocery store and maybe speak to them about opening up a small annex in our town to give it a test trial, see how it would work. And it would be, I think, what this gentleman said, that would be a perfect combination. Thank you.
Mr. Secord?
And to add to that point, I mean, Northern Dutchess County, Northern Dutchess County is particularly a food desert, and we really need to consider about infrastructure and businesses that support getting affordable, healthy options to people. Really, particularly to the idea about supporting business, we really need to think about our zoning code, what it means. I'm glad we have a comprehensive plan to give us a vision of what community members wanted to see over time, and we can take that and apply it to laws and say, okay, you know, this law is very outdated. It wasn't really meant for Stanford at that time. It's not meant for Stanford in 2026, 2030, you know, et cetera, et cetera. So I think maybe the idea is easing up on certain arcane restrictions and then slowly over time modernizing, because quite frankly, our zoning code is outdated.
Mrs. Taylor?
Can you repeat the question for me?
The question is, what do you believe can be done at the town board level to encourage the development of businesses in the center or throughout the entire town of Stanford?
I truly feel at this point, I could not make an intelligent comment about it. I would have to have a lot more input from the community to see, do they even want a grocery store here, right? So that's an issue. Of course, it's nice to come up here and say, yeah, let's get a grocery store here, and that will pump up some taxes towards us. And no, you still have to go to the community. I'm always going to be that candidate that first looks at home, everybody at home. You tell me how we're going to increase the revenue of our town. It's not going to be a movie theater. It's not going to be a big, huge Walmart. We know it's not going to be that. So we have to have a talk. Once you have that talk, then you can represent. You cannot come here, and I'm not on the town board, and I'm going to give you my idea. This is what we're going to do. It's not a dictatorship. You have to talk to the town first. And I will give that answer to you once, if I'm in a position to talk to the town and figure it out intelligently, then you'll have an answer.
Thank you. And I believe that was everyone. So, I'm not going to say anyone this time. Okay, so by a show of hands, can I see who here supports the what is laid out in the comprehensive plan that the town has passed?
Yes.
So by a show of hands, those are the candidates that support the comprehensive plan. For those of you who did raise your hand and did not raise your hand, can you please explain why it is you support the comprehensive plan? If you do support it, how you as a member of the town board will see through the recommendations laid out in that plan, and if you don't support it, what you suggest that the town do instead. So, who did we begin with last time?
Was it Ted? Or was it me? Oh,
So-
yeah, it was me.
Mr. Morrison.
Yeah, hi. The comprehensive plan is, how do I put it? Plethora of pages with, maybe we can do this, maybe we can do that. And people find that very disconcerting. They don't know how it's going to reflect on them later on. So they would like to see, this isn't. So they want yes or no answer. They want, well, maybe we can do this in the future, maybe we can do that in the future. And it scares a lot of people. That's my objection to it.
Mr. Secord.
So I think in taking the comprehensive plan, I want to add a qualifier to this, that every solution that would require consulting the comprehensive plan and any solution overall to anything should always be met with a critical eye. So you don't wholesale agree and you don't wholesale disagree with things unless they're egregious enough that you disagree wholesale with them. So for instance, in applying the idea of agriculture and the comprehensive plan and working through to support our agrarians, right? The town may not even need to pass a law, may not need to have these long-winded, drawn-out discussions about supporting. We can simply add a spiritual level of support to our farmers, saying, you know, X, Y, and Z, yada, yada, right? Like, it would take too long to really explain, like, applying a law from a document that is recommendative, right, to a legitimate real-world example. You cut me off in my intro. I'm glad you did that. I could go on forever. So I'm going to leave it at we need to be sharply critical about every application of it.
Mrs. Taylor?
I'm going to piggyback off of you. I do not like it being a recommendation, because then I can use that to recommend my agenda and everything. And it's not a personal agenda, right? So I think that why I don't support the plan is because you can use it from any side. Do you know what I'm saying? You can use it from any angle. There's no black and white. And I was military, I needed black and white. I need to know this is what I'm reading. My name is Mrs. Taylor, not some gibberish that I'm so confused about now that I don't even know, am I allowed to do this or not? It needs to be black and white.
And finally, Mr. Cunningham?
I see the plan as a conversation starter, and for example, we were talking about business growth. You know, another thing that actually, if you dive deep into the plan, it says supporting people who want to start businesses. Let's say you want to open a bakery, cottage bakery. You drive up 82 and there's a little stand that now sells baked goods, like right out the door. Maybe, again, the board doesn't need to do anything about it, but some people came up with those ideas, put them down, and it's a conversation starter for someone to read it who maybe moved here and wants to open that business. Maybe supports them going to a different school district or whatever they have to do. And I'm kind of laughing. It looks like there was a yellow jacket flying around in the back, and I have a yellow jacket problem in my house currently. But that being said, the plan is a conversation starter, and that's why I support it. But I do, everything needs to be looked at, and things you put down on paper can change over time.
Thank you. So Stanfordville is historically an agricultural community. What will you do on the town board to protect and promote Stanford's farmers? Teddy Secor begins this round.
Yeah, I think. So I think really, I hate this microphone. I think what's really important, not being an active agrarian myself, at my house we grow pumpkins and those are all dead now. So I think not being an active agrarian means listening to that community deeply, to what they have to say, who have years of experience, decades in almost every case, right? And their advice is valuable for that. And they provide, for example, right, we had the right to farm bill talks. Wendy specifically went out of her way and did the thing that we wanted, which was ask the farmers, ask them to come, ask them to, even if they have a couple minutes, look over the document and come and bring suggestions. And we took those suggestions very seriously. It wasn't parties, it wasn't, I've been here 1,000 years, it's just listening to that target demographic and understanding what their needs are and meeting them. So I think listening is really the key method to protecting agriculture in town.
Thank you, Mrs. Taylor.
I think I would go straight to the students in Pine Plains. There's a large population of students that already work on farms, and they're not getting any sort of recognition or motivation from the school. So the school knows that these students are part of the farm, they're working on the farm, they either are working for the farm, they own the farm, they're doing something with the farm. These students are the future. If you just have this program where we can incentivize these students to go into that field, now you have a generation of farmers coming up, and they're smart kids. They love farming, they love doing what they're doing. They're Pine Plains, that's in their backyard. But they're just being ignored, and they're being, okay, go to school, whether you pass, you fail, nobody cares, and your beautiful skill that you have, some of my students, they show cows, they show goats, they go to the fair, they work on the farm. They're telling me the entire process of how you get the milk, how you pasteurize it, how you put it into those tanks, how you transport it. These students are your meat.
Thank you. Mr. Penn?
I think I know one of the reasons that my wife and family moved here was the fact that you're just so connected to agricultural region. It's a breadbasket, the Hudson Valley. It's a place that's provided, food, animals, livestock, things for people in the region for a very long time. And so I would say, again, as on the town board, the right to farm bill was a big deal to be able to listen to farmers. I would also like to continue that legacy as well, listen to the farmers, what they need, but also try to support people who are, maybe smaller or micro farmers is another thing that people have been. I think a big farmer that I listen to right now is Farmer Dave over at Sister Hill. He's been farming here for over 25 years on a very small amount of land and creates a lot of food. And so being able to support those kinds of businesses and people to stay in this area and also create that connection to food and agriculture is something I'd like to support.
Thank you, Mr. Marcy.
Yes, sir, thank you. Yes, I do support farmers, and most of the farmers I spoke to want to just leave them alone. If you purchase, a lot of complaints are that someone purchases a property next to the farm, within a year that, well, I don't like the smell, or I don't like, the donkey makes too much noise. Well, the farmer was there first. The local guy was there first. If you move next to him, shame on you, but you really shouldn't have a complaint. That's their biggest complaint. Thank you.
Thank you for those responses. Let's move on to another question. Do you believe that the level of town taxes that is currently paid among constituents here is at an appropriate level? Would you like to lower it? Would you like to raise it? And if you'd like to lower it, which town services would you be in favor of reducing? Mrs. Taylor.
Well, I would not do anything to raise or lower taxes. I think they're fair. We live in a beautiful town, and paying taxes is not us, throwing our dollars away. We're contributing towards our community. I think if you want to increase your income for the town, you don't go straight to your residents. You bring some more residents in here. So those businesses and the new residents that come in increase your tax money. You don't have to raise your taxes or lower your taxes.
Thank you, Mr. Cunningham.
Thank you. Town taxes here have been the same for the last 6 years. And they're also the lowest town taxes in Dutchess County and or in our surrounding towns. And so for me on the town board, I would want to keep taxes at where they are. I'm not in favor of raising, cutting, because I do not want to cut the services that are so essential. Snow plows, things that take care of, honestly, the things that you kind of don't want to think about when you wake up and found out it snowed the night before and someone is out there taking care of that for you. Happily pay taxes for that.
Yes, thank you. I feel that the tax situation is adjustable. We have to look at some items, cut some items, but we need the essentials, and social programs are very important. But our biggest nut is the school budget, the school taxes. If that was lowered by a substantial amount, people would feel much better. Thank you.
Wait,
I was waiting for you to chime in.
okay. No, Frank stole my answer. No, I think our town has fair taxes and they can always be adjusted. We're in the budget process right now and I encourage anybody to show up to them. The people that run these different departments in town live in the town of Stanford, and they also care and see how those payments, how raising taxes, how lowering is going to affect them. So I think they all take very seriously what decreasing, what taking out, okay, 1 million stamps, right? This is a hyperbolic example. What getting rid of stamps would look like versus what keeping or adding stamps. If you're in the highway department, what adding more salt, taking away more salt does. I gotta say our town is pretty fair and pretty lean. It is the lowest income tax in the town of Stanford and Dutchess County overall, and by extension the state. And we have to think about what that means in the long game. How are we going to supplant these services over time? And I'm really not in favor of dramatically increasing taxes. I think we need to be realistic and seek out ways to defer dramatic tax increases, definitely.
Thank you. Very different kind of question. Please define the term community. We will begin first with, reminds me, please.
Community, what community means, exactly what it means, is all of us working together. All of us combining our ideas, taking ideas from you folks, and putting them into play. So to me, that's what community means.
Mr. Seaborg.
There's whole philosophies about this, okay? We'll get into the weeds on that. I think community for me has meant working together on things. It's the people you associate with all the time. It's even the people you don't associate with who have an indirect impact on your life. You know, I mean, God, my family's in the back. It took several years before we met just one of our neighbors, just because, like, you know, on Cold Spring Road, there is like a lag between you're in the neighborhood and then people figure out who you are and then they decide they want to meet you. So I think even those people I don't know yet, and I want to know them, I think those are also part of our community. And even people who are outside the bounds of Stanford are, in essence, part of our community too.
For me, community is somebody I can give a hug to and share a meal with and love living next door to them and feel safe living next door to them. When I first moved to Upton Lake, I remember Mary, she looked at me and she was very nervous and yelled and said, "You don't fit in here. Don't buy this house. There's nobody that looks like you here." And today, Mary eats at least one meal from my house every week. She hugs me a lot. She says, "Please bring your kids to hang around with me." We know Charlie just passed away, and Mary is right next door to us. She is like a grandmother to me, and it's been only 5 years, but every single person on Upton Lake is like a brother, a father, a cousin, a mother, a grandmother to me. And every human being that I meet, I make sure I give you my 100% presence and love and genuine character. So community to me is giving your presence to your neighbor, to your community, to your people, giving them love, just being absolutely genuine and accepting, even if they tell you, "Don't buy a house here, don't live here."
Defining community is, it's a tough one because it's so big but so small. This room is community, Stanford community. Sometimes the first time I thought I was a part of the community was when I saw the same neighbor walking up and down Huns Lake Road. And I learned his name, I learned that his family has lived here for a very long time, since the 1970s. As long as the folks that lived in my house before I moved there. And they still come back, and when they come through town, they stop by, knock on the door, and talk to me. They talk to others in this room, I'm sure. And as I've been out knocking on doors, I find out who knew who, when, and that interconnectedness is what creates the community of Stanford and also our community, and it feels good to be a part of that here. And so joining the town board, I really would like to help, be a sounding board for the community.
Thank you. In recent memory, one of the largest, most visible community projects has been the rec project to rebuild the Spark Park. If elected to town board or re-elected, how would you promote the recreation department? We are beginning with Mr. Cumming. Or no, with Mr. Secor.
I think that's my family in the back, like I said. You know, it really, like I said, because I enjoy the idea of not really raising taxes, you know, and being very close to the best with what we have, but also seeing that we need to increase our investment in the recreation program, because I see that as kind of the heart of this town overall. We need to be extremely aggressive about pursuing grants. We need to, and Lauren Osterman has done a fantastic job. We need to think about programs that have direct costs associated with the program itself, such as like the camp program being started meant, okay, we have to invest a little bit of money, but we made it all back. So we really need to be precious and critical about investing, what investing is going to look like over time, and maybe it means also having a lot of fundraising opportunities where people have a little bit extra to spare and they say, you know, this is for the future of Stanford, this is for the park, this is something that's going to outlast me, and I want to see that go further.
So my take on the park, on the rec, is we need to secure it, because you know there was a lot of effort and a lot of heart put into creating that beautiful rec. And I walk over there at 7, 8 p.m. sometimes, and I see residents that are not from our town. They come from outside town with their dogs. You know, I've said this many times. I've emailed, I don't want to name who I've emailed, but I've sent emails with pictures of people coming from outside town, bathing their puppies on the beach. And it says clearly that you should not be doing this at this time, right? It's closed. The dog is pooping. They're not picking up the poop. And we are not doing anything to protect it. There are adults that, they weren't speaking English, so I couldn't communicate with them. There are adults on the zip liner. That's going to break. So everything that we've done in this community, we've all put in our effort and made this beautiful park, we're not securing it. We're not doing anything to protect that beautiful wreck. So I feel like I'm a little disappointed with the town, because I've sent multiple emails and never got a response. I think the only response I got from someone was, well, the season's over, so why should we do anything about it now? I want to be on the town board so I can say, you know what, we're going to secure the wreck.
Outside of, sounds like enforcement issues, I'm actually interested in continuing to work with the town and residents as they have to find out what it needs next. It sounds like one, we could look at how we could spend money for other programs, or we could also look at, or encourage other programs, but we can also look at, I love how there was a tennis court, then there's a pickleball court. You can go to the library, you can pick up pickleball rackets to go use that. Looks like, you know, the Haunted Fortress was closed, now it's open. So it looks like whatever things we can find to keep it on the map and keep people coming. I meet families in Pine Plains, I meet families all the way up to Hudson that have said they've come here because they want to come enjoy a day in the country in Stanford. And that's something they can do, and then also support our businesses through that as like kind of a central place for them to come visit. And so whatever we can do, finding us, whether it's, you know, it's not a mountain bike park, but whatever we need, we'll find out through talking to our residents, and I would love to help promote that.
There's one particular item in the playground that I cannot stand, is that cup, the tilted cup. I sat in it, I couldn't get up for 20 minutes. So, hey, it's pretty mild spin.
Yeah.
But I do like the park. I do like the daycare, but I wish it was maybe opened earlier for working parents and closed a little later. Maybe we could do some kind of combination and limit and outside, I know it's an income source, but if we kind of made it more for our residents, lower income, but I think it's the potential is phenomenal. Thank you.
Thank you. So one thing that came up earlier when we were discussing short-term rental regulations with our candidates for town supervisor was the fact that, yes, the town board recently passed Stanford's very own short-term rental regulations, capping the number of allowed units in the town at, it was 55 units, I believe. By a show of hands, can I see who here is in favor of that legislation that was recently passed, capping short-term rental units at 55 units? And for those of you who, or let's just go around. Why do you or do you not support short-term rental regulations in the town of Stanford? This time we begin with. Let's begin with the.
Is it me? Or are we going down the line? Yeah.
We'll begin with Mr. Marson and start fresh.
Short-term rentals, I think it should be increased, and I do think there should be regulations. There's state regulations, and if the town feels the need to add one or two, but not a plethora of regulations. But I feel that the short-term rentals should be increased to above 55.
So to clarify, the question is about the cap of short-term rentals, correct? Yeah, no, I support the idea of limiting in the sense that you want to take over time the big picture, which is, we passed it at 55, which is more than how many short-term rentals we last knew. And if there's anybody who was disincluded from that figure by Granicus's possible faulty reporting, I think the town board can easily retroactively adjust that number, but Granicus is pretty on top of things, so I trust that judgment, right? And again, if need be corrected, corrected. But the idea for me, I think, reduces to tourism in Stanford as one aspect that's kind of like, okay, you have 55 short-term rentals in the town of Stanford. What's the real impact on infrastructure that 55 guests at any possible time, which really means like, I don't know, 100 guests, you know, if you're taking like couples and whatnot. I think these are all very real infrastructural questions that need to be applied to that understanding. If we just open up the floodgates and said no regulations on anything, I think that would be detrimental. I mean, people, the idea of the town board is to be mediator and servant, right? I don't think regulating the number is a harsh, draconian regulation and anything over time can be amended, right? I think this is taking the mediation aspect of the town board. We're taking what we've heard from the community about preserving rural values and character, and we're adjusting that with the fact that we have businesses in the town. So we need to, again, think about real impact and think about our values too.
Thank you. Mrs. Taylor?
I feel like I asked myself this question, who owns so many properties in the town of Stanford? Is it the lower income young couple, or is it the, the older couple that now cannot work and is trying to retire comfortably? So if you think about that question, it's not the 25-year-old with 20 properties and now he wants to start Airbnbs. No, it's my retired cop or it's my retired firefighter that now is not working and he wants to have a short-term rental because of inflation. His grocery bill is taking his entire pension. So where is he getting that extra income from? But now we're gonna cap it because we're not looking at our community. We're not talking to the community. We're thinking in our own head, oh, short-term rentals is gonna make this like New York City now. But you have to ask yourself the question, who owns properties in the town of Stanford? It is an older population. They do need supplemental income, and it's not fair to cap it at 55. I don't think so.
All right. So 55, I think it's a great starting place number. We take a look, we monitor, we find out if we we hit that number, you would look to see what the next number would need to be. We monitor. I think there is a lot of infrastructural decisions to think about like that. Living here just in 3 years, this is the first year it was dry for a long time, and my well didn't dry up, but you're having some issues. So my neighbors have said, like, I think maybe that might be due to how many new wells are here. And if you lived here 40 years, new wells could be a lot or a little for how long you've been here. But again, that number I think is a good starting point. And it's also to think about, those are short-term rentals, not accessory dwelling units. And I do think the town wanted to get that out there to make sure that it was ahead of the statewide law, so that we could be kind of grandfathered in to have our own rules and talk about it from our own town planning thought process. But last piece about that is, if we have only short-term rentals, then we don't have any long-term rental housing for working families and people who want to live here.
Great, thank you all. Is there, just to clarify, by a show of hands, is there anyone here tonight that believes that the town of Stanford should not regulate short-term rentals whatsoever? That there should be no town regulations for short-term rentals?
Excuse me, it's misunderstanding. I meant regulations as to regulating the safety protocols in the short term. That's what I was saying, not no regulations.
Is there, so going off your point, Mr. Marson, is there anyone here tonight, by a show of hands, who believes that the number of allowable short-term rental units should be unlimited? Okay, thank you. So moving on to the town's natural resources, how do you think it's important to the town to protect its natural resources? And if elected, how would you, on the town board, both protect and promote the natural resources of Stanford? So we started with Mr. Marson, so Mr. Secor.
So like I keep harping on grant opportunities, and we need to scope out. Specifically, it's funny you asked this question. I am on the Climate Smart Communities Task Force, and our specific job is to secure this task sheet document submitted to the state entity, which is the Climate Smart Communities. Let me get back, I could go on about that. But the idea is we want to show different funding entities that we have a vision of Stanford that is environmentally friendly and still in line with homeowners' rights and things like that. And we want to educate people about what it means going forward to become more environmentally aware. I could preach and proselytize, etc., but I don't want to sit here from the pulpit and say, you have to do this, you have to do these regulations. I just think that's unfair also, because realistically, converting to environmentally friendly infrastructure has with it a very high dollar cost, that we need to really consider. So one of the quicker projects I'm looking at specifically is getting charging stations at public places that the town owns.
So I am big on having detailed information. So I'm not picking on what you said, I'm just going to put it out there. When you have a charging station that is not environmentally friendly, because the charging station is allowing you to charge your EV, I get it, but that charging station is getting its power from a coal mine. We're burning coal, and then that charging station is getting its power. So basically the customer thinks, oh, I'm using this EV to charge my car, I have an EV car, I'm using a charging station, I'm being clean. But that charging station is being powered by very unfriendly means, not environmentally friendly, if you get what I'm saying. Something like herbicide in Upton Lake was thrown out there. Let's put herbicides. It's a herbicide, it's safe. No, herbicide means to kill plants. You kill your native species in the lake, you're gonna have a big problem. You're gonna have invasive species. That lake is not gonna be beautiful, it's not gonna be, the fish won't sustain. So when we talk about being environmentally friendly, but we're being gimmicky, like, okay, we're having a charging station. I need you to know one step before that. That charging station is being powered by burning coal. that's not environmentally friendly. So your carbon footprint is massive, but you think you're not having a carbon footprint.
Thank you, that is time. Again, the question is, if elected to the town board, how would you protect and preserve the town's natural resources if you think it's important to do so? Mr. Cohen.
Thank you. Some things that I'm interested in supporting are invasive species removal. If anyone has spent any time in a vehicle with me, they have heard me talk about the Chinese sumac and the amount of them that run along all of our roads. And then, you have folks come by, like Central Hudson will clear everything, and then they will clear it underneath the power lines, and then they just come up and they continue to grow back. And so working with people, either at the county, state, also looking at Cornell Cooperative, Carey Institute, finding people and grants and ways to help support the planning for and management of these invasive species is kind of dear to my heart, also something I've been doing on my property as I've lived there. I think also supporting ways to keep our skies dark at night, because that's one of the best parts about living in the country is walking outside and seeing the stars above you. So whatever we can do to support that, I'd be interested in it.
Again, I for conservation, the board came up with an NRI, which is, the amount of work involved in that was tremendous. But again, it's a document that if you overlay, there's no actual property left, everything is conserved, People are always leery about open book, no results, no answers. But I would definitely 100% conserve the water and the foliage, and we have 5 parks, they're phenomenal. And I would want to keep everything the same that way.
So just one question I have for everyone. What do you believe is the greatest challenge facing Stanford, and how would you, on the town board, specifically address it?
I think the problem I see is unequal representation, and I'm not just talking about Democrat and Republican, I'm talking about just different people from different backgrounds, different educations, different values. That town board should have, everyone should have a seat on the table. It should not be, 5 friends who own millions of dollars worth of property and want to make the rules. I'm not pointing fingers, I'm just saying my opinion, what I feel. What was your question, please, could you repeat that?
So what do you believe to be the greatest challenge facing Stanford, and how specifically would you address it?
So the biggest challenge for me, I feel like I face, is having a seat at the table and representing everybody. So the whole community must have some say on the town board. That's the challenge right now. The community is not fully represented.
Thank you.
Right here. It's an interesting one. I think hearing some of the things we've been talking about, a big one that's come up just in the last few, I'd say, meetings and in talking with folks is it sounds like there's not a big enough veterans representation in town. There's been an ask to create a committee around it, and there hasn't been able to have one be found in the last, I would say, 6 years, at least that I know. And so I think having a connection to the veteran community here, it sounds like you've got a great one. We've got some people who I'm sure be interested in that. Building that out over the next few years, I'd love to see that come to fruition. And then, I'll leave it at that. About environment?
No, but then
The question again.
The question was about
what do you believe to be the greatest challenge facing the town of Stanford, and how would you, as an elected official, specifically address it?
Yeah, to finish that then it does sound like there needs to be some connectivity between all members of the community and to make sure that everyone feels heard. There are open seats on different committees, and I think if everyone wants to take the time, whether to join the town board, any one of us, or take the time to join those committees and come out on a monthly basis, I'm sure you'll feel a lot better about being heard out there.
I don't know what your question. What's your question?
So the question again is, what do you believe to be the biggest challenge facing the town of Stanford, and how would you, as an elected official, directly address it?
The biggest challenge, as a couple people have stated, is we're divided. Nobody wants to listen to this person, or there's no dialogue. They see you're this team, you're that team. I mean, you have nothing of substance to offer. That's bullshit. We all have to live in the same town. We all have to work together. So I'll take one of your ideas, you take one of my ideas, put it together, and we'll make it work. That's the biggest issue we have. I hope being on the board, I can contribute to healing a lot of wounds. Thank you.
And then just
You pronounce it again.
oh, and then we're gonna
You'd think Pine Points Herald would write a hit piece about me. No, I say this sincerely, that I think every issue that approaches the board needs to be taken by the board seriously, even if it seems minor in someone's bigger picture that they hold to be ideal. I mean, every issue that's brought before the board needs to be at least digested and then talked about and discussed further. So, I mean, I had a very political background in terms of being a Republican at one point, and I was no official party, and now I identify as a Democrat. But I think those identities I've chosen are really limiting, and I like to have a grander worldview that anybody who approaches me, seriously, I'm gonna listen to you. We might not agree, but I want to be at the table with you. I want to consider you. Again, if it's something minor, but you found it concerning enough to bring it to us, I want to take that problem seriously.
Okay, thank you all very much. A round of applause for our candidates. Now I'd like to provide everyone here seated before us an opportunity for a 2-minute closing statement. So I know that let's begin with Charlie and work our way backwards.
All right, hot seat. I want everyone to know that I am running as a neighbor, a concerned citizen, a father, a husband, and a community member, something I tried to define earlier. I'm excited to, if elected, to support the board and come in as an outsider, bring some of my work experience, bring some of my personal experience, and a get the job done type of workflow that I like to bring. And I think that'll be supportive in whatever we would do as the next session of the town board. So thank you for this opportunity.
Mr. Marston.
Yes, sir. Hi. Same as Mr. Cunningham, except I can add grandfather to that list. But again, I want to start this town to heal. I am ashamed that we can't all be on the board at the same time. I think a lot could be accomplished that way. I don't think it should be one A or B, it should be together. And that's my goal, is to listen to you folks and put it into fruition. Thank you.
Mr. Secord.
I just want to say that I think I have a sick obsession with Stanford, that I really am grateful that I'm on the terra firma of Stanford right now. I appreciate the history of it. I appreciate the people. Again, agree or disagree about any single thing. I really do like Stanford, and I want to see it. Even when I'm moved away, even when I'm gone, which I hope isn't for several years, even when I'm away, I want to know that I'm leaving Stanford and I can say, I did my best. I put my best foot forward, and I want to pass it on to somebody else, and I want them to do great things with it too. In essence, Stanford is a project, and any town you live in is a project that you should be grateful for all its bads and all its goods. You should work towards bettering it.
So I know the town board has more control over our backyards than Donald Trump does. I may be a little, spicy, but if you want my eyes and ears on laws that are gonna be passed on what you can do in your backyard, then I would be willing to spend my time to do my due diligence and understand exactly what the plan is saying, what it entails, and what the effects are gonna be for you.
And all candidates have 2 minutes for closing remarks. Julia Descoteau.
Ditto what Teddy said. I feel honored to live in this town. I didn't go into a lot of my background, but my parents aren't from here, like Durga's parents. We moved to southern New Jersey, and we grew up in a former farming community that has since been developed like crazy. And that community doesn't feel like home. And ironically, when I moved here, I went to a yard sale around the corner on Market, and I ran into an old high school co-student of mine. He was in my class. He was in my graduating class. And we both moved up here for the same reason, which was we love the nature here, we love the community, we love the people, we love the intentional, smart improvements that are being made, that are bringing people together. We love the vibe, we love the people. I love the people here. I'll come home and my husband's sitting in the crowd, but I'll be like, going a mile a minute about all these people who I ran into, either at the transfer station or at Sisters Hill or at McCarthy's. Like, I love this town and I'm excited to serve. I've served in the past. I would be honored to serve in the future.
And finally, Mr. Roach.
Well, I think we have a great set of candidates here, and everybody's had a lot of great ideas. I think the key is community involvement and listening to the community here. I know me as, if I was a town supervisor, I'd be a fast learner. That's my experience. I would use my experience here. I would protect the environment. I may have come off that I was against environmental laws, but just to clarify, I'm for property rights. Protect the environment, yes. I love the environment. I look out, I see the bald eagles on the lake. I love the lake. I think we have a great group here. I have my team. We could come in here and we can help things. We can go in a different direction than the current board. And I know they're good intentioned, but I think we can do a better job. And if you elect us, I think that we can take the community in the right direction. Thank you.
Again, I just want to thank everyone who came out today for participating in democracy, for participating in your local election, for participating in local journalism as well. If you would like to watch the full video of this event, please go to newpineplainsherald.org and you will find it there tomorrow. And it will also be on the town's website. One last round of applause for everyone for coming.